In this video, we will be revealing a shocking development in the escalating tensions between the United States and China. Recent actions by China have sent shockwaves through the U.S. defense system, leaving the nation vulnerable. You won't believe what China has done to neutralize the U.S. rocket capabilities. They have cunningly removed essential batteries from the U.S. rockets, rendering them unable to launch an attack. But that's not all. China has taken another strategic step that could cripple the U.S. tech industry. So join us as we delve more into this matter. Let's get started. In a smart move, China has imposed chip materials export restrictions on the U.S. These materials are critical for manufacturing military equipment, including the powerful nukes that are the backbone of the U.S. defense. Without access to these chip materials, the U.S. tech sector faces a massive blow that could take months or even years to recover from. Experts are buzzing about this unprecedented situation, pointing out that China's restrictions directly respond to the U.S. actions. While experts saw it coming, the U.S. was shocked, underestimating China's power. The chairman of the Global Mining Association of China, Peter Arkell, hit the nail on the head when he said that China struck right where it hurts: the American trade restrictions. The U.S. had no clue this was coming when the restriction was announced on July 5th. And guess what? Over 3 weeks have passed, and the U.S. has been speechless and actionless. Uncharacteristically quiet, officials who usually have something to say about everything have remained silent. But here's the twist. The U.S. played a role in its own predicament. Its actions against China led to an aggressive response, and the U.S. knew it could pay the price. The scope of the damage was predictable, but they couldn't foresee the extent of China's retaliation. Now we're left with questions that demand answers. How is the U.S. responsible for China's drastic decision to restrict chip materials? What are the implications of these restrictions? And how will the U.S. find a way out of this sticky situation? Forget ancient wars fought with armies. This is the tech war and economy war, a high-stakes clash that demands strategic moves rather than direct attacks. The U.S. aimed to curb China's rise to power by imposing harsh sanctions, trying to halt chip sales and equipment to China, and squeezing its largest traders. But China had other plans. Undeterred and resilient, China doubled down on its Belt and Road Initiative, expanded its chip-making capacity, and fostered strong global connections. Despite the relentless onslaught of sanctions, China emerged stronger, angrier, and more determined than ever to prove its might. It successfully weathered the storm, even becoming Europe's sought-after partner. Then came the moment when China decided to give the U.S. a taste of its own medicine. First, it banned Micron, a U.S. company, from working in China. The tables turned, and the U.S. cried foul, conveniently forgetting its own aggressive tactics. The truth is, the U.S. underestimated China's resilience and determination. As China stood tall amidst the storm, the U.S. realized it had only managed to fuel China's anger and determination to succeed. Instead of making China crumble, the U.S. inadvertently pushed China to soar to new heights. Now both nations are entrenched in a complex and dynamic battle for supremacy. The question remains: will the U.S. learn from its missteps and adopt a new approach, or will it continue down the same path? As the tension between these global giants escalates, the world watches closely, anticipating the outcome of this momentous tech and economic war. Gallium and germanium compounds are key components for manufacturing semiconductors. These minerals play a pivotal role in the production of chips used in everything from everyday devices to military jets, making them a strategic asset in the ongoing battle for technological dominance. With China putting restrictions on these vital minerals, the U.S. finds itself at a crossroads. While the U.S. threatens retaliation against China over Taiwan, little did they know that China was planning its own countermove. China swiftly removed these chips from its military jets, leaving the U.S. military unable to attack without access to these essential materials. Now, the U.S. faces a daunting challenge. With China controlling a significant portion of the global supply chain for gallium and germanium, finding alternative sources is no easy task. China's dominance in raw materials export gives it significant leverage, leaving the U.S. with limited options. The impact of these restrictions reaches far and wide, affecting not only military operations, but also daily life. Without a steady supply of these minerals, the U.S. will struggle to produce everyday devices in automobiles, further complicating the already fierce tech war. As the situation escalates and China asserts its power over the crucial chip minerals, the U.S. must grapple with the tough question. Can they find a way out of this situation, or will they be forced to face the consequences of their actions in the war for technological supremacy? The battle for global dominance continues, with both nations seeking to outmaneuver the other in this high-stakes game of technological chess. With a staggering 7% increase expected, each kilogram of the mineral could cost a whopping $1,500. This restriction on chip materials exports from China has put the U.S. in a tough spot, adding to the woes of the ongoing chip and debt crisis. Finding an alternative supplier won't be an easy fix either. Even if the U.S. manages to locate a new source, the steep price gap will still take a toll on the country's finances, making it a challenging time for the U.S. economy. But here's the kicker. This is just the beginning. When comparing the number of sanctions imposed by the U.S. with those from China, there's a vast difference. China still has plenty of potential actions up its sleeve. If these restrictions persist, the U.S. may find itself backing down in the Cold War with China. China, on the other hand, remains steadfast and unshakable. Despite enduring numerous sanctions, it continues to stand tall. The difference lies in the fact that China has focused on its own development and strength, while the U.S. seems to have neglected its own preparations. As the tech war rages on and the economic stakes rise, the U.S. must reckon with the consequences of its actions. Will it find a way to navigate these challenges and strengthen its own standing? Or will it be forced to concede to the mighty force of China's strategic moves? The answers lie in the unfolding chapters of this gripping tale of global competition and technological supremacy. The U.S. finds itself in a tight spot, facing a crucial question. Why does it lack the minerals needed to produce chips? Every nation possesses these essential minerals, but it all comes down to mining capabilities. Some countries have the expertise and resources to mine and sell these minerals worldwide. But that requires hard work, skilled labor, and significant investments. The U.S. has two options: put in the effort to extract its vast reserves of raw materials or take the easier route of outsourcing. Sadly, it seems to have chosen the latter, relying on other nations like China to provide these critical resources. By exploiting the raw materials of less fortunate countries and neglecting their own, the U.S. has become dependent on others. To compete in the economic and tech war, a country must be self-reliant and unshakable. Otherwise, it risks an embarrassing defeat in the Cold War against stronger opponents like China. And that's all for today. But let's pause for a moment and appreciate your insightful comments and opinions. Now, many wonder why the U.S. isn't responding to China's actions. Could it be because it lacks a robust defense, or is unsure how to handle the situation? So join us in the comments section and share your thoughts. And if you're intrigued by China's remarkable development and growing influence worldwide, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe for more exclusive content. See you next time.